And with the arrival of DJT, everything is sort of tilted and flattened. We thought after COVID that time would never be warped again in that particular way as it was for so many people. But Donald Trump is he's doing his damnedest. Just a couple things that are we'll call it non-China related because most of the consequential challenges facing us as Americans, as human beings, as parents and grandparents and spouses and partners and things like that. They're all China has a pretty expansive influence on our lives, and I'll touch on that in a minute. And that influence will only increase in the coming years. But in the title of this essay, Futurist China just suggests, like Alvin Toffler, the most famous futurist in our lifetime. What China does differently than the United States is they look at things in on a longer time horizon. So what China has done successfully, and the U.S. has, except for pockets of military planning before Pete Hegseth, Pistol Pete came and completely disrupted that. The intelligence agencies before Christy Nome and some of the other uh, inhabitants of Bedrock came to disrupt things and dumb down the U.S. government. China takes where in the U.S. Uh, and it's an evolution, but we look at things in terms of tweets, in shorts, in compressed attention spans, and everything has to be now, and can't remember what we did yesterday, can't remember what we had for lunch, because the pace of life, of information, of the news cycle, and all of that is ever increasing. The two items that are, we'll call them ex China. The first is the Federal Reserve Bank. So Jay Powell is his term is up in the second quarter of the new year, and he won't be reappointed by Donald Trump because Trump has said too much shit, and he's a silly man, and wants a compliant head of the Federal Reserve, because Donald Trump believes that the Fed is a tool of his to use to manipulate the economy, much like he believes the DOJ, the reason that he put Pamela Joe Bondi in place, is a fully compliant, easily manipulated person that will do what Trump says. And that's a run on the MAGA cult reality that we all are living in. So maybe it's Kevin Hassett. That's kind of the front runner in the betting markets, is that Mr. Hassett, who served Donald Trump before on the council of economic advisors and in other capacities, a gentleman with credentials out the yin yang, as the kids never said, an eminently well credentialed individual, but there are lots of people that are qualified to be Fed chair. But the one thing that we know this new appointee will not have is any backbone, because they will be pre selected for their cowardice, their willingness to do whatever Trump says, regardless of the consequences. And Trump will immediately, or will continue his march on downward pressure. We need interest rates much lower, and that will be like cotton candy to the stock market, not the economy. Not good in the long term for jobs, not good in the long term for Americans. Good for people, day traders. Good for people that are well invested in the equity markets, and people that play options on the other side of the game. It'll be marvelous for them, because Trump will be able to, on a day to day basis, on a truth social by truth social basis, be able to manipulate the market, and that will be an absolute catastrophe for world markets, bond markets, equity markets. It'll be, crypto remains to be seen. Um, the gold as a leading member of the fear index, it's already at all time highs. Copper's up, silver's down. And what happens to Bitcoin, Trump coin, and some coin that hasn't been named yet, Melania coin? That still remains to be seen. But to take the cert the certainty out of this, remove the steady hand on the rudder of Fed policy, will affect the entire world. And to think that you would want Donald J. Trump to be the person to have that sort of control over world financial markets. Nobody except day traders, Vladimir Putin, and a few other potentates in Saudi and UAE probably believe that's a great idea. So Trump's kids will love it, because much as he did right at the beginning of his administration, he can telegraph what moves he's going to make. And those that have that information can bet, can short the market, can position themselves with advantages that the rest of us don't have, because we don't have access to that information the moment before a new policy is announced. You can get enormously wealthy with that sort of information. Uh, what was colloquially insider information, which was illegal to trade based on that information. But Trump has kind of changed the rules of that game, which is the most charitable way I can put the destruction that he has caused insofar. And he's with good health, he still has 3 more years to run. So that's the one, we'll call that ex China. The other, which is ex China, and then there's a partial, our national immigration policy and ICE enforcement on the ground. That can be affected by China, but we'll wait till the latter portion of this pot. Um, the continued damage that Trump does to our country, to real human beings, to human life, to race relations to civility to rule of law to 5 or 6 other things, continuing at the same pace that he's running at right now, uh, the nothing is irreversible, but it will take a decade to a generation to reconstitute the country that we once knew and recognized and loved. And he's doing damage to that every day. The only kind of the mitigating force, we don't know to what extent yet, but World Cup 2026 is about to kickstart in a few months, and thankfully, it's a wonderful opportunity for tremendous grift, graft, and corruption because that's what FIFA is all about. That is essentially the founding principle upon which FIFA World Cup is constructed. So there are going to be so many equally rich and powerful people, world leaders, uh, hedge fund people, gentlemen that run large hotel companies um, that will be calling the White House and saying, please, can you just put away Fred and Barney, ICE officer, and just lock them in their cells for a few months and let's get through World Cup, please, because we can all make, the US alone, over that short period of time when World Cup is here, it's, as you know, it's US, Canada, and Mexico, but the US stands to gain, $5 or $6 billion in GDP. Uh, I think about 1.5 to Canada and 1 to Mexico, which is real money to those smaller countries, smaller governments. It's it's a major lifeline, a bump, a little something to help them get through the tough times. They can just rack up so much money, and Trump could, if he continues at pace with the immigration enforcement, the uh, unethical and in many cases illegal behavior on the streets of America, victimizing cities that are run by black and brown mayors and in blue states. He will put in jeopardy billions of dollars of income that could be lost revenue to people that many of whom voted for Trump. So he's going to be getting a lot of noise. Will he choose to take a little time out and just say, "Hey, hold off for dial it back, watch the borders, and cease and desist in the cities that now there are blue cities that are going to be hosting events. My hometown here of Boston has a big place in that. We have a great city, the greatest sports town in the universe, and a mayor in Michelle Wu, who I wish very much was president of the United States right now. Um, but our city will suffer if Trump, as he has done all along, sort of selective prosecution, surging Bovino and the other idiots into blue states, blue cities to disrupt while leaving the red cities with higher murder rates alone. So that's kind of the two, and then the half is Venezuela, and I'll use that to sort of move into the China part of the program, and then I'll wish you a happy New Year's Eve. Venezuela is deeply concerning. The military strikes that continue down there, the capturing the tankers, uh, the strikes on the areas that Trump identified as staging areas for drug activity, and all of the aforementioned without any proof whatsoever, other than the good word of Donald J. Trump and Pistol Pete Hegseth and Christy Nome, who are all three known to be, completely unrestrained liars. That's what they do. That's how they roll. Now, Marco Rubio, who used to be a well respected member of the Senate, deeply concerned about his parents' home country of Cuba, concerned in a way that many in South Florida are, in a hair on fire, call it a socialist, as if that makes it bad. They're all tied up in their fields for sure. But he used to be a serious person who was viewed as such on the world stage, and now he walks into meetings in Europe and in Asia, and they know that they have now an unreliable partner because he lays down ass up essentially for DJT, and has sacrificed any morals that he once had. So that's it's unfortunate. The But the U.S. government capturing what is essentially Chinese oil in the tankers. The deal that Trump has with Xi Jinping right now, we weren't on the line. We don't know exactly, but it's pretty easy to connect a few dots. And the most important thing to Xi from now for the remainder of Trump's term is, at what point, not if, but at what point does Xi want to, quote unquote, repatriate Taiwan? Because all of the agreements, doctrines, and other winks, nods, and tickles that suggested that the United States would stand with Taiwan and rush to Taiwan's defense if China should invade, I would say those are safely all the way out the window and have fallen all the way to the ground floor and are lying on the ground now. Uh, that just there isn't pretty much across the United States government. I'm not sure there's the appetite, even among hawks in both parties, that would have stood up to China on this one issue. I'm not sure that it's there any longer. I'm not in the halls of power, but I've been studying the subject for as long as the subject, well, at least for the half a century. And it just doesn't seem that there's the appetite. So, but he knows that he needs some sort of cover, right? He needs the U.S. to say a few nice things, like it's in the interest of the United States government to focus more at home on the new Monroe Doctrine. And while we strongly condemn in the United Nations, in no uncertain terms, any efforts by China to subjugate the great Taiwanese Democratic society. We stamp our feet, and we're going to give a stern warning. Okay. If Trump, on the other hand, you were to say that he was going to take a principled stand for Taiwan, he was going to, what would he say? Take a look at how we're behaving in the Caribbean, right? What we're doing, our doctrine in the Caribbean, in a sovereign nation, which is no disagreement that Nicolas Maduro is a bad guy, but there are a lot of bad guys out there, and some of them are closer to us, and some of them are in our administration, and some of them are closer to China, uh, or uh, or travel between Moscow and St. Petersburg. We have no standing any longer because we've appointed people to positions of power that prove that we don't want to be considered serious players on the international stage any longer. Right? If you want to project power and you want to, if not intimidate, but give pause to your adversaries, you don't put Pistol Pete Hegseth, a weekend Fox News host, in the most powerful position a military man or woman can hold in the universe. You don't do that. So Marco will leave him on still on the ground, face down, looking for cover right now. Kristi Noem, deeply flawed human being, thought she'd be gone by now, but the year isn't over for a few hours. Never know. Could have some resignations. DJT himself. China controls the way that that's going to play out, and that, of course, connects Taiwan, connects to chips, connects to AI. So that's our future in a model. Yeah, we're building foundries in Texas and Arizona, and we're going to catch up, and we're going to onshore that entire production capacity. Won't be done during Trump's term. So, could China, with short of repatriating Taiwan, China could create blockades, actual blockades, or constructive blockades in the straits that would uh, frustrate the efforts of NVIDIA. Rather important to our keeping up in that race that Trump is trying very hard with his other hand, maybe his good hand, to give away to China each and every day. But the under discussed and perhaps undercovered story, what we were talking about more 2 months ago, is TikTok. You know, we have the Supreme Court ruling that TikTok must be either taken off of all of the apps, the App Store, the Apple Store, and not available in the U.S. or sold to a U.S. company. So this fiction that was produced in part by the Trump administration, by the Ellison family, by private equity, and Rupert Murdoch, it doesn't appear, made the final cut. But it was sold in such a way that these three co-equal participants on this side of the Atlantic would allow the US to retain control over the algorithm, and while China still has an involvement, excuse me. But that was then and is now proven to be a fiction because if you do I know math is undefeated, but also people fuzzy math, which I think was George Bush the senior who liked saying fuzzy math. Um, the math doesn't work out. The control of TikTok, even the American arm of the company, the licensing agreement, although Larry Ellison's Intel is in, the private equity folks in, but the other parts and parcels are still ByteDance, and then uh, the a UAE group, the, a part of their sovereign wealth fund, not the KSA, not the Saudis, but UAE, Dubai, and otherwise. And if you do the math and you add up who has a majority interest and control, it's still more than 50% China. That's I'm talking about the American arm of TikTok. So what do we have? What sort of control did we wrest out of the arms of the Chinese Communist Party? Nothing. We have as much control over the app and the algorithm and the data as China will allow us to have, no more. You can have Larry Ellison, supported by his son David, jumping up and down. You can have the White House screaming about independence and that we have good people on both sides. Yeah, right. You've heard that before. But the essential truth is that well over 55% remains in Chinese control, which means anything that's Chinese control, ByteDance or otherwise, is under the control of the Chinese Communist Party and President Xi. There ain't no, there's no private market in China, private ownership, private actor, private equity, uh, privacy in your home, anything that is not under the control of the CCP. So we're doing a new algorithm, but China still has their hand inside it. Like no, no, that would be Epstein analogy right now would be distasteful, but it's China has an intimate hold on a very sensitive part of the U.S. consumer's anatomy. And and while you may think initially that that touch is going to bring you some pleasure, I will absolutely assure you that that control of TikTok, we already know the social consequences of that on our youth, on our children and grandchildren. That algorithm has the power when dialed up, quote unquote, to 11, has the power to distract and influence America's youth. And I would argue, weaponized as it could be, and this is by Trump allies, also has a fair amount of influence on adults because there's more than one or two adult TikTok users. Elections, Trump exerting influence, even with the Supreme Court's aggressive oversight, if you can believe that. Trump can still use his private army, the new ICE, to send enough people to blue state polling areas to try to disrupt elections and make people think twice about showing up to vote. So vote early, vote often if you're in Chicago, and make sure that you're registered for mail-in voting. That has its own risks, but that's the best way to avoid that sort of disruption. But it cannot be overstated the risk to what remains of our democracy if, on one hand, Trump is using all the powers of the Trump state security apparatus, which he will be doing, and on the other hand, dialing up the influencer portion of that supercharged by TikTok and by your boy Elon with X on the other side. So anybody who's not a TikTok user, I'm going to bet they're on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. You got a lot of reach, and he will be doing everything he can do legally and otherwise to try to hold on to the majority in the legislature. Um, that is everything is through, for me, a China lens. Fed, little sidebar. Venezuela leads back to China because of oil, because of our bad behavior on the world stage makes Beijing's subsequent bad behavior more defensible. And then dancing around like Tinkerbell in the background is your other boy, Vladimir Putin, who continues also to exert influence on the President of the United States in ways that we don't fully understand yet, but it's there. And you know who has a direct line and, if not respect, but Putin is Putin is scared of very few things in the world. I would contend that the one person that Putin doesn't want to FAFO with is Xi Jinping. He's a bigger, badder dude with hypersonic missiles and more toys and a larger intelligence infrastructure and a bigger army. So Russia, which like we know has an economy that's now smaller than Italy's, China could absolutely crush Russia without hesitation, but has incentives for keeping Putin propped up because Putin is an instrument that Xi can use to get at U.S. interests and DJT, and he knows that, and he will continue to do that. So it's kind of a marriage of what a miserable thought. A marriage of convenience between Putin and Xi, as the OG authoritarians, and Trump just is at this point just a wannabe because our courts are still functioning. But in any case, believe it or not, I just wanted to wish you a safe evening and an early New Year's wish. Touch a little bit on China, which is China. If you if you had to give the elevator pitch to a uh, to an invader from Elon's planet of Mars, that what do you got to watch out for? I would argue that it's TikTok and China first, and then everything else. So, and we'll see that play out over the coming new year. And how long does it take for Xi to reconstitute his senior military leadership to such an extent that he feels comfortable um, taking on the Taiwanese are not likely to lay down and welcome them with open arms because they've been thinking about this very consequential moment for decades. And yeah, but have a beautiful evening for you and your loved ones. A happy early New Year, and we will be with you later or tomorrow, and get ready to celebrate the age of Zoran Mamdani if you are in New York or you are in favor of positive change in the country, and you want to and I mean, of course, let's be honest. It's a new year. Let's be really honest. I want Mamdani to be healthy and safe. I just hope he has the most thoughtful and robust security detail ever imagined in New York history. First of all, so he and his beautiful wife are safe. But there is a Mamdani as a triggering mechanism, and I'm still trying to get my first New Year's edition of Mason Grace out. It'll be out when it's done. But this Mayor Mamdani is so triggering to a lot of really annoying human beings in and out of New York, whether they're whatever they're screaming about. It's delightful. It is going to be the gift that keeps on giving. The interaction with DJT and whether yeah, it's beautiful. It's what makes life worth living. Thank you for everything this year, and look forward to more engagement. And kindly, if you can, find that restack, subscribe, share with a friend, retweet, share off of the platform, and do all those things to and in this weekend while I'm doing some engagement things to try to grow my following. I would appreciate anything that you all can do to that end. Finally, on TikTok, right? So it's we're nearly halfway through the last day in the year. I have for principal reasons or other reasons or no reason at all, I have avoided signing up for TikTok myself because I recognize I don't not that I not that I believe or that I think it might be a risk to our democratic institutions and to our children. It is a risk. There is no maybe about it. It is a undeniable, substantial, consequential, ding, word, uh, risk to all that we believe in. It is in the hands of either, and it's actually both, the Chinese Communist Party and or Larry Ellison, meaning agent for Donald Trump, but smarter with more money. So that ain't good for us. But I need to understand it. I'm going to use it a little bit, get familiar with it, and then as we're just you and I talking here, isn't it more fun kind of in an OAS sense? Like if you're going to get the Nazis, which is an appropriate reference in the age of J.D. Vance's Next, in the AFD, and the rise of the Nazis in France and across Western Europe, and certainly in, dot, dot, dot. You gotta, the nicer way to put it is you gotta, if you can't beat them, join them. No, not joining. But in order to, I'm not so hubristic to believe that one older than you dude with serious technical uh, 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 serious shortcomings to his technical abilities can make a major difference in the arc of TikTok's influence. No, that would be silly. That would be like a Donald Trump statement. To that's that's what they call crazy talk. Right? But you got to understand it. If somebody's using a weapon against you, you know, when I was a younger kid uh, and could see better, then the thing I used to do after going to the range, as we used to do in the bad old days in Miami, is that you go with your 6, 7, 8 guns and do your thing, and it's as a sport, you're not shooting at humans, but that was a big part of young life, and fancied myself an exceptional marksman, and really good with the tool, the equipment, and so much so because read too much Tom Clancy or Dick Marchenko, and soon when you're a influential 20-year-old man in Miami, having visited uh, darker places, that what you needed to do is you needed to be able to take um, a Glock or or I had a couple of oh my god, Sig Sauer, Glock, Beretta. I have an old Browning because I was nostalgic for the British Secret Service days, and all of that. You needed to be able to disassemble them and take them apart, clean them, and put them back together without looking, right? That's part of the, if you wanted to know how it worked, you needed to do it, quote unquote, with your eyes closed. And you get older, and the joke's on you because your eyes are partially closed, uh, uh, medically or genealogically. So that's fun. But I'm sorry, back to TikTok, is that in order to understand what this weapon of war in the possession of the Trump administration and the Chinese Communist Party in order to understand all of the risks to us as older adults, to us as citizens, voters, and as parents and grandparents, is you got to be in it, right? So you got to learn a little bit more about it, not be an expert, but increase your fluency. And so that's where I'm coming at that from. So if you see something in the feed that looks a little different, that might be me trying to get slick and technical. So work with me because it ain't going to be magnificent to begin with, and it may never get there. But if we stop learning, then we're dead. So it has been it's been a pleasure. Thank you for a great year, for all of your support, engagement, comments, viewership, and again the restacks, retweets, etc. So until later or tomorrow, thank you and a beautiful day.